Asking then which tools and also maybe which frameworks, right, would be useful for the CRA. Obviously, OWASP SAMM has been mentioned in the past to be a framework that can be useful to help comply with the CRA. Maybe Dag, you can start by explaining that, and maybe which tools would be useful to use.
Yes, so OWASP SAMM is the software assurance maturity model of OWASP, and it is basically an inventory of the best practices from a process perspective on everything that a company that produces software could do. It has different levels of maturity, and then based on where you are, your risk profile, the risk profile of your products, your appetite, and so on, you can choose a level that you feel adequate and you want to work towards. This fits very nicely for to prepare for CRA, because there has been a mapping created, which I contributed to, between OWASP SAMM and CRA, actually between CRA and OWASP SAMM, translating it into which processes do you need to have in place in order to be able to comply with CRA. For example, we mentioned vulnerability management. If you're not looking and I don't see anything, it doesn't count. You need to be looking. So what does looking mean, and what does it mean to be looking well? Well, that's OWASP SAMM has very clear prescriptive measures for that. So I think right now, SAMM is one of the better, I hesitate to say only, good framework to start laying out all the things that you need to do. From a application, from a security requirements, we can also work with ASVS, another OWASP project that specifically has the security requirements that we put in two teams at the beginning of, well, in each sprint, so that the security requirements are a fundamental part of the development, so that they're taking on into the applications. This is going to play a big role as well. I'm not aware of a complete mapping between CRA and ASVS yet, but I think there will be one by OWASP Global AppSec Vienna later this year. So this is being recorded in January. By June, probably there will be a mapping to ASVS, or the kind of translating the requirements from CRA into ASVS requirements. So from a framework perspective, those are the two that are on top of my mind. Of course, there's other things like SBOMs. There are also standards around SBOMs, like CycloneDX, or another OWASP project that we obviously will be using in order to make SBOMs.
I think that I will add only one point regarding SAMM, that SAMM as a framework model was explicitly mentioned in the BSI guideline for the CRA, one of the first documents and guidelines of the regulation, under the section of secure by design. So in order to prove that you are developing things secure, you need to show that you are thinking about everything in some structured way, and having SAMM implemented and documented helps you to provide the, first of all, proof, secondly, to do things really in a proper way, not to miss anything or overlook anything. Also, to add regarding some framework standards, etc., definitely helpful will be to use something for threat modeling, whether it's Stride, PAST, or whatever your team is comfortable with. There is no requirement on what type of approach you need to use. You just need to do it properly and have it in place. And for something related to policies, documents, and risk, ISO 27001 as a standard really well known across the market. It might also help you to add additional documentation if you're lacking it, or to support you in writing some exceptions, let's put it this way, in case if you do not comply with specific areas, you need just to include those exceptions justification within your information security management system, and it will be enough. So nothing super new, I think, just already well established and known standards on the market. The only new thing that you need to start doing things not only thinking about them, but really to perform threat modeling on some recurring basis, to perform some SAM assessments.
You need to start doing things, and you need to document it, because
yeah,
you mentioned earlier that the companies that don't do anything, they'll have to start doing something. But there's also a big group in between, where I know a lot of people who work in medium-sized companies or software startups or something like that, where they do have quite a few things in place, but it's all like tribal knowledge, and it's not very well structured and organized. It's like, okay, threat modeling, Nikolai does threat modeling. We'll have to go.
yeah.
And yes, risk profile. I think Jimmy does risk profiles. But then, yeah, if everything needs to be well documented, put into on paper and well structured, and the different activities that live in people's heads need to come together to make a picture that makes sense altogether.
Yeah, that's a great point, to be honest, because pretty often you come across such examples and what we do is SAST. I don't know, but maybe Jürgen. Oh yeah, of course I run SAST every Friday. Yeah, sure. Why you're asking? But nobody except him really knows this in the company. What they are testing, what are the test cases, what is happening there. In smaller teams, people are pretty confident about each other, especially if they work for quite a while. That's why they see all this additional documentation just as a burden and something really useless. Let's make things instead of writing documents.
Yeah, and that's where SAM is really useful. If you do a SAM assessment, you're actually going through all of the questions and you need to write down all of the answers. And if you have a tool like SAMI where you can keep the documentation as well, then maybe you're already there. Maybe you're already doing everything you need to do. But by doing the SAM assessment, you have just inventorized everything that there is. Meaning that if you have to demonstrate compliance, everything is there ready for you to grab, and you don't have to rely on tribal knowledge in somebody's head somewhere.
Yeah, so just focusing a little bit also on the tooling aspect, some people might be wondering if you could do all of this with spreadsheets. Wondering if it would be possible to carry out all of the assessments and compile all of the information that you need with spreadsheets. Do you think that would be enough, Victor, or do you think maybe having a tool would be?
Yes, you can do it in spreadsheet, especially if you like pain.
Yeah. I think that's the short answer. Of course you can. Everything could be done in Excel, in some people shared drives. Then you will forget where is the specific Excel. You start searching for it. You're like, oh gosh, it's not on my drive. It was on someone. You go to the tab shared with me. Suffers there. Someone named it in the different way. You cannot find it. So it's quite a journey.
It's been 42 different versions. It's been somebody messed with a formula somewhere they shouldn't have messed with. Nobody noticed. Those numbers have been wrong for months.
But again, don't get me wrong. If you have one product and you are the only owner of everything and it's purely your Excel, yeah, sure. I think it will work fine for you. But when we get to the point when it's a product company and you have a number of products with different product teams, then it's getting a mess, because each product team has its own Excel. They feel it. Then somehow you need to get their Excel to your Excel, or you need to know where all the documents are, when they are updated, whether they are updated. Is it the new information? No, someone is on vacation, like quite complex. And the second part, if you want to visualize this, then the Power BI or some other stuff gets into the game. You need to find people capable of doing this. Then formula breaks, pretty often breaks. Then you want, I don't know, maybe see the specific product. You need to add additional lines of code to see the specific, I don't know, thread or something else. So it's quite complex. But it's definitely possible. However, there are to make life a little bit easier.
I agree with Victor. It very much depends on the scale of your organization, and the problems with working with Excel become exponentially bigger the more people and products are involved. So if it's you and the cat is not touching anything, then it's fine. But if there's different people, different projects, different processes, different lines of reporting, then yeah, it's nice to have a good tool then. that keeps everything in a central, streamlined way.
Okay, you heard it here first, guys. You need to use SAMMY. That's basically a conclusion.
But to be honest, when we are touching the SAMMY topic, I think what is great about SAMMY, specifically for the smaller companies, because the bigger companies, they might already have tremendous system built within Excel, Power BI, connected to the compliance department, engineering, whatever. But if you are a smaller company and at some point of time you will discover that you need to be CRA or something else compliant, it's a good starting point, really easy and straightforward to understand how you're doing with development of your software or a product. Like, we typically get it done with the customers in 2 or 3 sessions. So it's 2-3 hours of time. And you already get a good understanding on 2 big items. First, are we doing something? Secondly, do we have this documented? It's already quite a big part of work done. So after, and yeah, of course, you have it visualized, whatever, it's really good. But the main point is you can really understand where you're standing. So at some moment of time, it just, at the end of the interviews, you say, okay, good. So we are good in engineering. We have all the process. We just like all the documents. Let's focus the next 2 months on writing the documentation, but in overall, it's good. Or the situation may be, okay, so we are not testing anything. That's the point. I think we need to rethink a little bit, because I was expecting that Jim was doing this every Friday. Unfortunately not. And it also could be the case. So quite helpful to get fast results in understanding where you stand now.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and also I think what's very useful in SAMMY is that if SAMMY today has the CRA ready target posture. So if you've done a SAM assessment and you set a CRA readiness target posture, it will tell you the gaps. So it will tell you where you need to put processes in place or document processes in order to be ready for a CRA. That's really good today while you're preparing. Later this year, probably by the middle of the year, there will be a full CRA feature within SAMMY, which will be largely built on OWASP SAMM, but sometimes, especially in a smaller organization, they don't feel like learning about SAMM in order to do CRA. They want to comply to CRA. Why are you bringing in another framework? So what that's going to do is that it's going to do that based on SAMM, but without saying that it's SAMM. It's going to cover all the processes that you need to have. But then there are a few things that are not covered in SAMM, which are mostly about communication and reporting obligations. You need to report to the customer in some cases. You need to report to authorities. You need to. These things are not covered in SAMM, so they will be added as like an extra section of questions. And then with that, you will have a complete, easy to use guide on complying with CRA that can assess your different product teams to see if you're ready and have everything in one place. It will also spit out the documentation that you need. So yeah, that's going to make everybody's life easier.
Right. And I think that's also from the point of maintaining the process in the future. It will help you just to continue being or preparing for the CRA in the future. Because as all of the results are in the console, you can double check them. Teams can easily update them, and you can see the statuses across different domains. So it's really helpful in terms also of maintaining compliance for the future.